Hi, good evening, friends, and welcome to one more Power Pack session on Back to Business series. We will wait for a few seconds till the time our participants are logging in. Hi, Rajesh, good evening. How are you?
Very good, very good. A very good evening to you, Samir. It's a pleasure to be connected.
My pleasure. Today I'm sure we are going to have a fabulous session. So let people join in.
For sure, for sure. We'll try to make it the best for all the people who are paying in terms of their focus and attention to us.
Sure.
So it will be interesting and exciting to talk to all the people who are there with some questions. And
oh yes, we will have a very interactive session. Combination will be of a lot of people. So we are on multi-channel as of now, and we will have a lot of people from different parts of the world who consume our content, and this content also becomes a part of our academic syllabuses in the campus for the entrepreneurship course.
Fantastic. So Dr. Samir, that is something nice that you have done where you are reaching knowledge to all the parts of the world. It is fantastic.
Yes. And then we curate it very well. We use it as some classroom sessions also during the programs in the lectures. That way.
So it will be interesting talking on people, and I'm looking forward.
Yes. Accordingly.
Sure.
So hi, good evening everybody, and welcome again to a very power-packed and very interesting session that we are going to have today on the Back to Business series, brought to you by the Wellinger Institute of Management, and especially the Entrepreneurship Management Stroke Family Managed Business Program division at V School. This is a very unique program which we run for almost 2 decades now, where children of family business owners come to the Mumbai campus of Wellinger for a period of 7 days every month. And then they get an opportunity to how to scale up their businesses, which is a combination of a AAA approach, acquisition of knowledge in the classroom, then applying that for the next 3 weeks in their businesses, and then they assimilate all this knowledge. And this is an 11-month program. And in the program also, we have really faculty experts like Mr. Rajesh and our other thought leaders who come and guide the young business owners. So that being the background, today we have a very interesting guest. Whatever concepts of management that you must have heard, in theory, here is a person who applies all of them. That is very important. So if somebody is saying business is about risk, he has taken the risk. Business is about innovation, he has taken that. So let me introduce you to my very close friend and my mentor, Mr. Rajesh Agnello Rajesh Athaide. And so all 3 names he's very popular with, so people get confused. So by profession, Rajesh is the chairman of St. Agnello's VNCT Ventures, which is India's largest villa development company. And this is just a short introduction. If we people of our age recollect, the person who got in the computer education in India, St. Agnello's coaching classes, if you remember, they were spread across this city of Mumbai. That was again his pioneering initiative. Rajesh is also a very strong mentor and supporter for the entire entrepreneurship community, for startups, for business owners. He's been looked upon as an ideal, and he does a lot of initiatives in that space. So whether it is he's incubated a business opportunities club, he supports the Catholic community with his Christian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is also with the multiple networking organizations where he's guiding and leading mentors, and more than that, he's a friend of friends. So I don't want to unveil the way he has become what he is today as his growth journey. And he started from scratch. He's a first generation entrepreneur. That is very important. And he has really implemented what he has learned, and more than that, he shares what he learns with the community. He's a global personality with offices within the country, business operations spanning to many parts of the world, and more so, he has the network which he makes it available for anybody who asks for his help. That is very interesting and important to know. So you will be surprised the level of help which we gives to entrepreneurs and to relationships. The kind of respect he has is phenomenal. So Rajesh, welcome to this session and I would really again welcome you on behalf of the Wellinger Institute of Management. Rajesh, today's session we have multiple stakeholders who are consuming this information today on this channel and all our multiple channels, and also this becomes a part of our curriculum for various programs where we like to bring in the industry expertise. So we have students from the entrepreneurship program, we have management students, faculty members who consume this, and we have friends from the Roundtable India and 41ers Club of India, which you are again aware about the kind of work which we have been doing in India and globally, in the space of educating the underprivileged children. So business owners from that vertical are also a part of this program. So I would now like to hand over to you, Rajesh. Today's session, we would like to focus on topics of how to manage people, human resource, the processes what we need to bring in as entrepreneurs in the businesses, and then ultimately it's all about profit and money. So the people, process, profits, the vertical, that is one section which I want you to cover. And also I want you to cover and talk to us about the 50 mantras and the book which you have released during this COVID times. And I think it is a case study in itself that such a short span of time, we have a book which helps you to overcome this crisis. So all over to you, Rajesh. Yeah.
So Dr. Samir Karkhanis, to begin with, I'm thankful to you and the Wellinger Institute for giving this initiative. I'm sure knowledge is something that needs to spread, and knowledge multiplies the more you share with it. I'm looking forward to learn from the questions that I'm going to get. Today evening, I've done a presentation. Since it's a management institute, I didn't want to come impromptu. So I've done homework for the first time.
Wow.
I've created a presentation and I'm going to do a presentation show. My presentation wouldn't be for more than 5 to 7 minutes. It will give you a clear ideation and concept of people, process, and profits, all very important. So people will drive processes which will generate profits, and you also need to read it reverse. When you make profits, you need to improve your processes and add value to the skill sets and capabilities of the people and add more capable people to the system. So it's going to be read both the sides. It is people, process, profits. It is profits, process, people. So with that, I would now like to get started with my presentation, which will last not more than 5 to 7 minutes. And post that, I would love to share this PPT that I have made only for this purpose. I'm going to share it on the social media for the world to consume it free of cost. I've taken a case study, which might be very interesting and exciting. Life is all about case studies. Life is all about stories. Life is all about how you relate to a story that you hear, you understand, and you absorb. And knowledge gets absorbed and stays back in your mind like a Sholay movie when there is a story attached to the content that you're delivering. So that's what is going to be my attempt. So how to manage people, process, and profits. This is the topic given to me tonight. I'll finish this quickly and I'm looking forward to your questions. So let's get started. Well, I'm a chairman for St. Angelo's VNCT Ventures. We are one of the largest villa developers. That is all introduction given by Samir. I'll not go on that. Well, friends, do you know how honey is made? There is a case story that I have created around this particular concept. There is a very interesting video also which explains the process of how honey is made, but I will not play that video. It's a 6 minutes video. It will be there on the social media. I'll post it after this session, which you should go through. It will teach you volumes of how people are connected to the process of how honey is made. So do you know how honey is made? You might have a faint idea. Let me take you to the story. Friends, let's make some honey. And when we do this, we will understand the correlation between people, process, and profits. Friends, did you know a honeybee and its method of making honey is one of the most rewarding process in nature? We need to understand that process so that we can build similar processes in the businesses that we do so passionately and with such strong purposes. Friends, a honeybee follows a very strict routine and an efficient process to produce honey in a hive. We need to understand it is the same process that we need to follow in the businesses that we are building, the robust business model that we want to build for global consumption. Friends, the message that I would like to deliver tonight is, for us, global is local. Every Indian today has to start thinking about being a global entrepreneur. We need to lead from the front. This is what I called as the new world order, and we are going to lead from the front. The Indian entrepreneurs are going to lead from the front, and the rest of the world will come and collaborate with us to encash on the opportunities. So friends, the process that the honeybee follow is in sync with a team of thousands of other honeybees playing different roles in the hive. So when you go through the process of honey making in detail, I'll be just touching the surface in the story. You will realize that lots of people, thousands of honeybees together sync with each other. They understand
Rajesh, I think you have logged out.
I think I lost the connection there. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Samir.
I think you lost the connection. We can start again because I think people missed it.
We'll
I was
start it
getting
again.
messages. Yeah.
Any.
So
No
welcome,
issues, no
Rajesh.
issues.
Welcome back again, and we will start with your PPT. Yeah.
Done, done. So I'll just get started with the PPT.
Yes.
Can you see the PPT, Samir?
Yes, very clear. Very clear.
Okay, okay. So I was saying that a honeybee follows a strict routine and an efficient process to produce honey in a hive. This process is in sync with a team of thousands of other honeybees playing different roles in the hive. The team of bees produce enough for everyone in the hive and also creates sufficient provision for the future. The whole process of honey making rewards bees and nature as it aids pollination of fruits bearing trees. So this is what even we do in an organization. We need to have sync amongst the people who will definitely produce the honey that your organization wants to deliver as a product or service to the rest of the world. So how's your hive doing? How's your organization doing? As entrepreneurs, we have a lot to learn from a honeybee and the process of honey making. Friends, the hive is nothing but our business, and the bees are nothing but the people or the team that we have. Honey making is the process that we are going to talk about. That is the people and the process, and honey, the end result, the product. You can see the beautiful color, the liquid gold, which is called as honey, is the actual profit that the organization makes. So profits need to be for a strong purpose. Profits need to be for a strong impact, and profits need to be to create value in the ecosystem that we sustain, survive, work, pray, and grow. So these are some of the messages that I would like to give. Friends, people are the most important aspects in this three-word system that I want to discuss: the people, process, and profits. No strategy, process, or idea is going to execute on its own. The most important asset in a business is the people, and all success is contingent to your team. The quality of the people that you have will define the quality of the journey your organization is going to drive, will define the quantum of profits that you're going to achieve, will define the quantum of impact that you'll have in the ecosystem and the environment around you. So people are the most important aspects of any organization. And जैसे एक कहावत है, गंगा ऊपर से बहती है. So you need to have people who can clone you, who can think like you, who can have the same mission, who can have the same purpose. So you need to match the type of people that you have, or probably you might need to groom them up in the format that you desire your organization to grow as a social enterprise, serving the needs in terms of products and services in the society. Friends, it is critically important not just to have people, but you need to also empower your people. So empowering people is a very critical element and very critical aspect of life. When you empower people, your biggest responsibility is to inspire other people to be the best versions of themselves. So you need to make sure that it becomes a responsibility that you need to shoulder. The success of an organization depends on the quality of training you impart to your team, the quality of motivation that you give, and how you inspire by being a leader in the organization and leading from the front. So you need to always have your neck on the line to make sure that your team tries to emulate you and takes the business forward. Friends, get everyone behind the mission and keep them there. Get to know everyone. Create a culture of transparency and feedback. Appreciate good work and also encourage risk taking. Friends, we need to understand one aspect. Our team needs to be in sync with our thoughts and our actions. You need to bring that discipline in that particular formation. Also remember one thing, to empower your team, it is not only to delegate your responsibility, but what is critically more important is what is the kind of authority that you delegate with your responsibility. An ideal formula is you need to delegate it in the same proportion as the responsibility. So responsibility and authority needs to be on equal parameters. Authority can be a step more, but at least not a step less. That's a message that I would like to give. We need to build a team. When we talk about people, it's not only about leadership. We need to make each person in the team a leader of the actions that he's supposed to be taken. So building a team is critically important. A great team complements each other's strengths and is in it for the vision of the business. It is in it for the vision of the business, not just for individual gain. Even though everyone on the team has their distinct areas of expertise, they need to find common ground and work in sync to achieve a common goal together. Purposely, I've shown you a cricket team. The cricket team, somebody's a bowler, somebody's a batsman, somebody's an all-rounder, somebody's a good wicket keeper, somebody's a good fielder, but every person plays the role. One catch caught on the boundary by a person who's not a great batsman can change the tables. One batsman on the last ball hitting a six can give you to a victory. One wicket keeper who takes the most difficult, unimaginable catch can win the match. So we need to have significance of every role that gets played. The role does not depend on the quantum of the role that somebody has to play, but the quality of the role that somebody has to play. So we need to build an absolutely all-round robust team, and we should not calculate them on the quantum of the role that they play, but the importance of the role that they play. So these are some points that I wanted to share. Let's come to the second P. The second P is process. It is not sufficient only to have good people. It is not sufficient only to empower them. It is not sufficient to make them into a good team and train them. But what is also important is you need to arm them. You need to empower them with processes, systems, technology, environment, absolutely a strong ecosystem for them to perform their game, for them to release their output and the outcome the way you desire it. So process, productivity is the lifeline of a business. If you want company productivity to be at all-time high, you need to have the right process in place. I like to think of our processes as the central nervous system of a business. Processes are what organizations become famous for. Whether it is a Mercedes, whether it is a McDonald's, whether it is a Starbucks, all these organizations have put their processes in place. The Indian Railways, the most dense network of railway trains for passengers across the world, is functioning because there is a process. Whether it is an airline, whether it is railways, whether it is a Starbucks, or whether it is St. Angelo's VNCT Ventures or your organization, we need to have successful processes in place. Otherwise, a great batsman with a bad bat might not perform. A great bowler with a spoiled ball might not deliver. So you need to have the right processes in place, the right equipment in place for entire team to perform the match well and to win the game. We need to play every game to win. We need to win strategies, we need to win processes, and we need to keep in place the right and the best kinds of processes which can lead us to victory and the desired results. Friends, process is an ongoing solution. There is no fixed formula that today the process that I have is the best. It needs to evolve every day. It needs to evolve with every person. So what do I mean by invent and improvise? It's simple, friends. Our marketplace is dynamic in nature. We are already doing surprise management with the current COVID-19 scenario, which says how dynamic the environment can be. So hence our business must evolve, and so must our systems and processes. What I would like to share with you, understand the cause and effect of the change. You need to understand the cause and effect of the change so that you can adapt quickly. You need to brainstorm with the team for the solutions due to the changed environment. This is what we do at St. Angelo's VNCT Ventures every single day. We always evolve our thinking every single day with the experience that we take, new experience that we take every single day on the field. We also need to implement the gut matrix. Now, this is a very interesting concept which I would like you to know. What is a gut matrix? Friends, GUT has got a very deep meaning, and each of these letters has a strong meaning where you need to connect with those meanings and add them to your process in your organization. Friends, the first alphabet is G, gravity. What will be the loss if a step is not taken? Not taking a decision is a bad decision. So what is the loss if that step is not taken? So you need to understand the gravity of that loss. The second is urgency, the time you have before it's necessary to take actions to prevent a loss. So India took the decision of a lockdown, one of the fastest decisions in the world, and we saved probably thousands and lakhs of lives by coming under the lockdown in the nick of time, unlike the other multiple countries which lost a lot of lives because the decision was delayed. So we were quick to take that decision of lockdown, and we could have saved lakhs of life thanks to the decisions that were taken. So urgency is critically to be understood. The trend, what's the extent of the problem? Today, we are all become analysts. We are analyzing the changed environment around us, and we are trying to understand what is the new trend going to be. What was the old trend? What is the trend now during the lockdown, and what is going to be the new trend? So we need to be able to identify that. I'm to the last of the presentation, the last word, which is profits. Friends, let me tell you something. It is very important for us to support businesses which make profits, because businesses which impact the economy, which impact the people's lives, and which enhance the value of people need to be supported and need to be grown. I have a strong philosophy in life where I say, I love to say this, that profits in good hands develops the society. I would like to repeat this statement. Profits in good hands develops the society. So profits is critically important. A business can only exist if it can take care of the pain point or need of the market profitability. If there is no profit, the business will cease to exist. Hence, it is essential to run business efficiently for profits. Good organizations have the social responsibility to make profits, sustain, survive, and grow so they can do service to mankind by providing their products and services. We need to improve our profits. Making your business more profitable involves looking at ways to increase sales revenue as well as decreasing your overall cost. We can increase the profits both the ways, by increasing our revenues and also decreasing the cost. So we need to be cautious, and we need to have our eyes on the ball, that we need to make sure that we save and cut on costs. We need to also be aware that we need to discontinue unprofitable products and services. We all times need to find new customers, increase the conversion rate, review the current pricing structure. Our pricing should not be based on competition, where we end up realizing one day that a product which is cost at home at 80 rupees and we have sold it at 50 rupees. So don't commit that mistake. Competition should not allow you to determine your price. You need to determine your price after making logical, mathematical, and accounting decisions. So that's a message to you. We need to reduce inventory. Always carry the least amount of inventory, like how Japan says just in time. They manufacture just in time to absorb the demand of the market. We need to follow that principle in all lines of business that we are engaged and involved with. We also need to reduce the overall direct cost. When we follow this particular formulas, I'm sure we are going to be successful with our organizations. The success recipe, according to me, what I've come out as a derivative from this conversation is people multiplied by process is equal to profits. I will repeat this. People multiplied by process is equal to profits. Profits is equal to value plus impact plus reinvesting into people and processes. So people define process, process and people together give you profits. When you make profits, you need to reinvest into the process, and also you need to reinvent into the development of your people and addition of new people. So friends, that was my presentation for the evening. Now we get into a dialogue, we get into a question and answer mode, and this presentation will be uploaded to the social media for everybody to consume it. Thank you so much.
Yes, great, fantastic, Rajesh. Very short, crisp, and to the point. Fabulous. I think all the three aspects very well covered. I want to start with a few questions for you, and then we have people who are waiting to ask you questions. I wanted you to share some insights, Rajesh, on the startup community. What is your advice for the startups in this current challenging times, because they are now thinking whether we should start, if we have started, whether we should fold up, is this the right time to really stick to the vision and invest the money, because the investment funds are also going to be drying up a bit. So what is your view in terms of motivating this audience?
The simple formula for every startup is do not start the startup without having a customer in place. Your operating revenue on day one needs to be more than your operative expenses. It can break even, but not a rupee less. Don't start a startup and then start to look out for a market. Identify the market first. So like I say, you need to understand the gap in the market, you need to map the gap, and you need to tap the demand. So if you have these three things in place, the gap, the map, and the tap, only then you should venture into it. You need to have a captive customer before you get into market with your expenses. Don't start without that. Always have a customer in place and then start, and then you can improvise and scale it up. Now, it is very interesting for startups to think in advance itself on how they can do forward integration with their principal customers. If they become a part of the larger organization as a support mechanism, which is sure shot delivery of products and services, that's going to change you from a startup to a regular entity as early as possible. So identify your market and then get into it. This is not the time only to experiment on your passion by burning your own money and burning the money of the people who believe in you and who trust in you. This is the time to have a logical backward calculation on how do you sustain, survive, and grow in any kind of a market. Let's forget about the current scenario. Let's consider this as a normal scenario. You need to be strategically right. If you're strategically right, you will not commit a mistake.
Fantastic, because they are really rethinking what to do, right? Also, do you think, Rajesh, this is the market, because as crises happen, opportunities emerge? Do you think this is also the market to identify a few problems and new growth areas and start something? You might be a working person with a good experience, but now this is the time to identify a problem on hand and try to solve them. Is this the time now?
This is the best time to start and grow. You need to find the biggest possible problem that you can solve. The size of your organization, the size of your profits, and the size of your growth will be directly proportionate to the size of the problem you identify and you find. If you find the problem, you need to go and solve it. You need to have the caliber and the capability and the resources to solve it. If you are ready to solve the problem, there are too many takers, but the game begins from identifying the problem, by identifying the gap. Now that is the talent. Now, if you do that well, there is a big opportunity waiting for you. The best doctors in this world will fail if they are not able to diagnose what's wrong with you. So the success of a doctor begins on the diagnosis. Once they diagnose, that's why they send us for so many tests. A right diagnosis is 90% case solved. So you need to diagnose what the market needs. Where is the gap? What is the problem? Again, I will repeat. The bigger the problem you identify, the bigger is the size of the opportunity. Size of the problem is directly proportionate to the size of your success.
So true. Perfect. Absolutely. Rajesh, before I really open up to the people to ask questions, I don't want to leave you without asking you, out of the 50 success mantras, which are the top 3 mantras which you would like the audience to know?
So I have already shared 3 success mantras during the day of the launch with Captain Raghu. I will tell you my next 3 mantras that I like.
Yes.
But the objective of the book 15 New Life Mantras is purely developing a purposeful leadership role. So the people who read the book, they will automatically start moving towards how you can become a purposeful leader. Now the country and the world requires leaders who have an IQ and an EQ. There needs to be emotions and there needs to be empathy towards the development of an economy. There are too many problems to be solved. So entrepreneurship will demand purposeful leadership. So it is not vision, it is not mission, it is not passion. But what is now required and what will be required forever henceforth in this new world order is going to be purposeful leadership. The chapters that I liked were community building. I spoke about the last time. The chapters that I liked were one is creating a market, identifying a market for yourself. Second is how do you groom and train your team. That is the second one that I would like. We also need to be equipped to do surprise management. COVID-19 is a surprise element for the whole world. So we need to master the game of surprise management, and you'll be able to achieve all of this when you read the book, the 50 New Life Mantras. It's going to be a very interesting book, written on the current circumstances, written with their intention of how you can tackle the opening market as as the lockdown gets unlocked, and on the basis of the experiences that we developed before the COVID-19.
Wow, superb. So friends, we have to get hold of the book. It's already available now. On the e-version, it is available, right, Rajesh?
Yes, it is on Amazon.
Yes.
So if you just Google Amazon 50 New Life Mantras, you'll get the book.
And you'll get that. And I'm not only suggesting that book, I'm also suggesting your first book, which really inspired me and young entrepreneurs like me, was from how to move from crisis to opportunities. And multi-languages, you published that, and that was really a big inspiration. And I remember we had launched it at the Wellinger Institute campus.
At the Wellinger Institute, and thank to Dr. Samir Karkhanis that it was done.
And Subhash Chandra ji and Dr. Salunke sir, and we had launched that. Fabulous. So Rajesh, now I have two young women entrepreneurs on the show with us. They have completed their entrepreneurship management program. So in fact, Maitri has completed her program with us, and she drives her family business. And we have Shraddha again, who is a current student with us. And so Shraddha is from the hospitality industry, and Maitri is from the jewelry industry. They have questions for you, and they are going to ask. So Maitri, you can start. Yeah, I'm unmuting you, Maitri. Go ahead. You can introduce your business and ask your question. Yeah, Maitri, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, good evening to everybody. And so the whole presentation was very interesting and very knowledgeable. And I would like to ask you, first thing first, like as for a long-term vision, I would like to understand that when you say that, you should know your team better, you should appreciate your team, your vision should sync with your action with your team. My question to you is, like, as an SMEs, we can start with a small team and grow. But when the company grows, there are hundreds of people, thousands of people working with you. How do you actually still have that touch, the unity with them, to communicate, to share your vision with them for the future?
So you need to have a blend of working directly with the top management and the core board team, and they need to percolate your thoughts to the downline. But at the same time, you need to keep inspiring your workforce. So you might be, let me share something interesting to you. There is no fixed formula for wealth creation. What Richard Branson creates wealth with more than 400 companies is what Bill Gates does with more than 2.5 lakh employees, is what Warren Buffett does with a team of less than 30 people. So there is no fixed formula. And all of these people are very inspiring leaders. Now, it doesn't matter how many employees you have. What matters is what is the attitude that you adapt to in inspiring these people. You don't have to be in touch with the 5 lakh people that work for you or 2 lakh people that work for you. It does not matter at all. But what matters is what is the kind of leadership that is percolating down to the bottom of the pyramid in your organization. So as a leader, you're also going to create more leaders under your wings. So the way you behave with them is the same way that they will behave with their downline. So Ganga uppar se behti hai. The water finds its own level. And that's what needs to happen through your leadership. At the same time, as a company owner, even if it is Rajiv Bajaj of Bajaj Electricals, he might be having 50,000 people working for him, but he still bumps into his people who are at the shop floor, who are at the reception, who are at the watchman level, and he interacts with them for a couple of minutes to get an idea, to gauge. When you're a large business owner, you'll be able to sense the person's feeling even from his shadow. That is a kind of predictability that you need to empower yourself with, which comes with hardcore experience. It cannot be taught in a school or in a college or on Harvard. It comes with experience, and you need to develop those extraordinary skill sets. For you to lead hundreds of people, you need to have qualities which are beyond normal human beings, and that is what these leaders have. Whether it is Ratan Tata, whether it is Anand Mahindra, whether it is Narayan Murthy, all these people have got those innate qualities to make those assessments, and their processes are in place. They watch the pulse of the organization by the communication that goes around within the organization on various digital platforms. You just need to pick up if there is a comma put at the wrong place, or if there is a full stop put after a wrong statement, itself will give you signals that there is something wrong, and you need to relook into what's happening in your backyard.
So true, so true, so relevant. Shraddha, unmute yourself and you can ask your question. So Shraddha is from the hospitality industry. They have hotels in Bombay. Yeah, Shraddha, unmute yourself, please. Yeah, go ahead, Shraddha. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Good evening to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is, since the COVID-19 has happened in the month of March, and we are the industries who are really badly impacted, and the attrition rate in our industry is also too high. So since we will do the increment of the salaries, and we have to manage the people as well, and we have to manage profits, so how to go about things, because they can switch to jobs easily and we have to take care of our profits as well.
So you're into restaurants or you're into hotels? What is it?
We have a chain of restaurants. We just entered into hotel right now. It's been a year now. It's in Mira Road.
Okay, so I'll share something very interesting, but which is a fact which we have to understand, absorb, and digest. 33% of the businesses in this world are on the growth path. For example, food industry, logistics industry, technology industry, education industry, pharma industry. This is on a growth path. 33% of the businesses will make break even, and they will need to be in the market so that they can survive once the scenario changes. And 33% of the businesses will have a very economically challenging time for the next 6 months to 30 months, 24 to 30 months. Unfortunately, the restaurants and the hotel businesses come on the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Now, it is only a simple formula of what needs to be done. You need to re-strategize and you need to reimagine. Now, rather than customers coming to restaurants, the restaurants will have to start going to the customers. Every number will have to be reworked. Every number will have to be reworked. So what will have to be reworked? First and foremost, your operating cost has to be reworked. Your restaurant rent has to be reworked. Your salaries have to be reworked. And people working in the restaurants will also understand that other sectors are not giving new jobs. So we need to sustain with this job. So what kind of a deduction are they willing to have till the things go to normalcy? We need to be very transparent in these times. If we are transparent, our people will cooperate with us where they know that the business is trying to survive and sustain and support even our existence. Now it is the time for you to go to the doorstep of your customers, because the times are such. When I say doorstep, it means delivering food to the houses of the people, delivering food to the offices of the people. So the model is going to change, but you'll have to rework on your expenses. At the same time, you need to map your market. Now your market is going to change. The 33% of the top line, the top of the pyramid organizations, you need to make a list of it and start getting in touch with them to serve them with the expertise that you have. They are also human beings. They will need food and you are providing food. How can you reach to those markets which can afford to pay a better price and which already have a need, but there will be competition. So you might not get to on a thick profit margin, but you will earn enough to sustain your business model. So hard work will improve. A lot of planning will need to be done, but there is a solution. You don't have to wind up your organization. There are some people who gave up hope, but I always suggested to them that re-strategize your expenses, re-strategize your plans, and keep getting into the business. So there will be opportunities. You have to work a little more harder. So that's the only solution.
Thank you.
So true. So true. And this is a very grassroots solution and applicable. And for information for everybody, Rajesh also has hospitality businesses. Yeah, so it comes straight from there. Rajesh, we also have Srinivasu. You have interacted with him before during our roundtable days also. So Srini, and now he's the president area 4 for the 41ers Club of India. Srini, you also have a question. You can welcome Rajesh and also ask your question.
Very warm welcome, Rajesh. We met many times. Always a pleasure listening to you. And I think you really gave, a fast bullet-like presentation today, highlighting all the points. I really want to appreciate you bringing in to strategic importance of process. It is something that most people in India don't give much emphasis to. So people process profits so brilliantly put by you. One question that I have comes from your book and your vision that you articulated so brilliantly, a world without boundaries where people work together to bring about lives and livelihood. So I wanted to just comment upon this in the light when India is looking at huge opportunities, perhaps flowing out of China. At the same time, a lot of countries actually putting up economic blockades to protect their own self-interest.
So, Srinivas, it is going to be very interesting. There is going to be a differential role that India is going to play in this new world order. We are going to be the economic leaders, and for your information and for the information of the audience, the highest growth rate today is India. We are at plus 2.5. China is 1, and rest of the world is minus. So even in such a bad scenario, we are leading purely because India was never an export economy. And because we were never an export economy, we are sustaining and surviving as on date. We are self-reliant and we don't depend much on export revenues for our country. Now, that was a negative before the COVID-19 scenario. With the COVID-19 scenario, that became our strength. But that is not a long-term solution. Automatically now, India is going to become one of the largest exporters because 30 years back, the money that went into China and the companies from the Western world which went into China are now relocating themselves. Now, I don't say 100% of them will come to India, but the population of India is required to support the kind of products and services that are required to service the entire world. I always tell Srini that there are formats of how people become remunerated. People start working, then they become self-employed, they start working for themselves, then they work for entrepreneurs, then entrepreneur works for corporates, corporates work for the government, and there are countries which hire governments to work for them and make their wealth. So why do you think Americans with such a small population compared to the Indian population are financially the richest people in the world? Because they have engaged so many countries which work for them. One of the countries that they had engaged was China, which was producing the products and services that they required, which they sold and marketed to the rest of the world. So now to keep going with the same kind of requirement of products and services, they will need a separate, similarly populated country, and population, which was once upon a time our drawback, is today our strength, and we will win that opportunity. And that's why these orders will come to India. Now, what the economist of India will need to do is, what happens if a scenario like this happens in the future? Then what happens? Like China today is struggling with their economy purely because their exports are completely stalled. Now, what happens to the infrastructure that they have and the expenses that they're incurring? It's a roadblock for them. For China, the 100% country has become like a restaurant. You get me? Which has got less business today. So now this is the opportunity for India, and this is where it will change from. India also, we need to understand one thing. What we don't have as a country is our strength. We don't have the quality of roads that a developed country has, but that's an opportunity, because when the roads are going to be built, money will go to the public. We don't have networking of rivers, so we have got challenges of areas in India where people don't have water, so the people are dying, and there are areas where there is so much of water that people die with floods. So it needs water management needs to be done, which is also on the priority list of the government. So water networking will bring prosperity to the country. We don't have power for 24 hours across the country. Even that is getting sorted out. We are turning from a developing country to a developed country. And when this happens, when this transition happens, definitely we will become a very robust organization, and that wealth is going to get distributed amongst the people. So we are not only a country, but we are a world in a country. I love to say this statement that India is a world in a country. Even if we try to satisfy the needs of our own countrymen, it's a huge market. We don't need exports, but the export opportunity is knocking at our doorsteps. And as this world unfolds from the lockdown, we are going to start providing products and services to the rest of the world. And that is an opportunity for every man born in the beautiful country of India. We just need to be equipping ourselves. We need to be capable. The funds will flow. Rest of the world will develop India as a country, because people with money need to have people who work on that money and earn profits for them as well. So for them, the people are we. The process they will bring along with them and the money, and the profits which we will earn will also go as a share to their pockets, because they invested money and process in our country. So this is what is going to happen, and this is how it is going to unfold on our people, by setting up the processes and then dividing and sharing the profits that our people create for themselves and the people who have invested in India.
So
Thank you, Rajesh. That was very insightful.
Rajesh, I'm taking a few questions live now. Yeah. So Jairaj
Sure.
Thakkar, I think you have a question. I'm allowing you to speak. Can you go live, please, Jairaj? Jairaj, you will have to unmute yourself. Yes, Jairaj.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Mr. Rajesh, the question was with regards to the Angelo classes which you had started. Always during my days, I always heard about Bhide classes and other classes, and all of a sudden, I saw Angelo coming with, and if I remember, I'm not mistaken, it was a yellow color advertisement which I always used to see. So, when you're starting something new and if you put in so much of money on advertisements, do you think it justifies the investment that you do on advertisement? Does it really pay back that easily, or it really takes a long time to get that money back?
Okay, so jitna dikhoge utna bikoge. If you're in the retail business, advertising is mandatory. You can't sustain and survive without that, but you need to come out with channels where you need to have it very economically done. So we were having three colors that were used in our advertisement campaigns. One was yellow, what you correctly said. Second was red. Third was white. We could not afford the newspapers advertisement in those days, so we used to do leaflets. But how we used to do the leaflets were very interesting. Whenever the larger organizations like an Aptech or NIT could give full page Times of India ads, my peon used to stand near their building and distribute leaflets to the inquiries that they got. So that way I could leverage on the full page newspaper ads that they gave. So life is all about strategizing and planning. Once upon a time in Mumbai, I was the highest installer of banners in the city of Mumbai. I used to install more banners than political parties put together. I used to install 10,000 cloth banners in the beautiful city of Mumbai till BMC became very strict. And of course, it was not right to be doing that. We used to also paint walls. Anything standing vertical used to get painted as St. Angelo's Professional Education. So these were some smart tricks and techniques. A man with no money will be a man with lots of ideas. And that's what we applied. You replace money with ideas and you do your business. That's what we did. But retail business cannot sustain and survive without advertisements. Today, you have got a social media where you can do that. There are two methods of doing it. If you're a Hindustan Lever, you'll have a 1,000 crore budget. And if you're me, I will have a 20 lakh budget, but more effective than that 1,000 crore advertisement. So it is all the way you ideate your strategy, which is critically important. But at the end of the day, the product value or services need to add value to the lives of the students. So let me tell you something, Jairaj. We trained more than 400,000 students. We were the people who started the first cyber cell for India for Bombay Police when Mr. Ronnie Mendonca was the police commissioner of Mumbai. We trained the Mumbai Police, Crime Branch, Modus Operandi Bureau, Anti-Corruption Bureau, State Reserve Police Force, MADA, BMC, BST, Western Railway, CBI, you name it. And all the political parties of Maharashtra were supported for IT from our institution. So we were robust at that point of time. One message that I would like to give you. We started with this in 1993 during the Mumbai riots. And now we don't operate it much purely because computer education has become a part of school curriculum and college curriculum. So never fall in love with the business that you do. You need to change with times. You cannot be emotionally connected. It gave us the reach. I meet my students across the world, in any airport of the world, in the best properties of the world, in the most unknown locations of the world. I've come and met my students. But what did we do for them? So Jairaj, I will be proud to say that we brought computer education within the reach of a common man. And by doing that, we changed the economical status of thousands of students. What my student used to earn by spending 3,500 rupees as fees with me used to surpass the revenue of a doctor at that point of time. Whereas to become a doctor, you needed a lot of merits, you needed a lot of money to pay the fees, and then a lot of efforts to become a doctor. That much money my student used to earn by just investing 3,500 to 10,000 rupees as fees with my institution. So how can you become a value creator should be your mission. So my purpose in life, Jairaj, has always been, I will appeal to the youngsters to have similar kind of missions in life on how to become a value adding person in the economy and in the society. If you give value to the people, you will never have the dearth of a market. You will always have a customer base which will back up your mission, which will back up your purpose, and which will back up your absolute growth that is required. So it is all the attitude that matters, and we need to have our thoughts in the right place. So value creation is the only business I do. So I do almost 6 to 8 or 10 businesses, but in all the businesses, the single most important word for me is value innovation, value creation, and value delivery.
Thank you very much.
Very, very nice. So Rajesh, as we talk about value creation, identifying the market, identifying a problem, I'm clubbing all multiple questions and asking you a question from the Q&A section there. Since most of us are entrepreneurs, many of them young and many of them mid-aged entrepreneurs, there is a question, and we again are a business school, Wellinger. So then there is a question which they are asking: how do we upgrade ourselves as an entrepreneur in the world of digital transformation, artificial intelligence? Because SMEs, MSMEs, and retail business owners usually get scared with these big fancy words. But then what I understand they're trying to ask us is how does an entrepreneur upgrade? So probably you can share some insights on that, and also you should share about your business opportunities club. How do people upgrade?
Never live in isolation. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to be a part of some system. So like, for example, we operate the Business Opportunities Club, where we work together, we ideate together, and cross learning happens. The best ideas comes not from your sector, but from some other sector which you can adapt to your business. So I'm a part of Business Opportunities Club. I'm the Bombay president for Corporate Connections, which is a global networking organization. I support Saturday Club. I'm a very active part of the Christian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Dimensions Global Christian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So I'm a part of multiple organizations and forums. You need to be a part of an ecosystem at all points of times. It is absolutely critically important. You need to take experiences, because that is your true education. Education within the four walls gives you knowledge, but experience of that application of the knowledge in the real market scenario gives you wisdom. We all need to be wise at all times. And in the coming days, competition is not going to be between two products or two companies or two countries. Competition is going to be between the skill sets of two individuals, of two people. I always love to give an example that if there are 10 Mercedes cars in a race, even then only one Mercedes car will win, the guy who drives it the best. So we need to always keep updating our skill sets. And in these current times, the people who have lost their jobs are people who are not capable. The organizations which have lost business are the organizations which were not capable. And the governments which will lose their government because they did not handle the role well. So everybody is going to be tested for the rest of your life. You are going to be productive completely. Also about artificial intelligence, Samir, I would like to share some interesting aspects. We are now going to be in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. We have seen three industrial revolutions. In the 1800s, in the ending of the 1800s, we saw the revolution with the steam engines coming in and the railroads being made in the United States of America. In the early 1900s, electricity brought a revolution. Electricity changed the way, and combustion machines changed the way that the economy moved. In 1960s, computers came into play, and the education of computers brought the technology revolution. So that was the third industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is going to be artificial intelligence and machine learning. There is nothing to fear. People have a fear like the coronavirus, that every man will die, and artificial intelligence is going to take away every job. Nothing to fear about that. Artificial intelligence is going to consume jobs of not more than 14% of the population, which means this 14% of the population has to switch over to some other activity. However intelligent the machine is, you will still need a man to control that machine. It is said that by 2026, the machine is going to become more intelligent than the man. And by 2050, the machines will be more intelligent than all the men put together. But still, there will be people who will control those machines, and there are services which the man only will have to provide. Machines cannot be able to do that. So all the risky jobs in the life where our life is at threat will be done by machines. Rest of the activities will be done by the people, but they will uplift the quality of life. So let me tell you a small example. Industrial revolution added value and added quality of life to everybody. In the 1800s, the per capita production compared to what it is in 2000 has multiplied by 30 times. When the quality of the GDP improves and increases, it adds quality of life to the population of the whole world. Today we are 7 billion. Artificial intelligence is also going to add a lot of quality of life and value of life. It is going to reduce our working hours, but it is going to give us more free time and more leisure time and more pleasure time to lead a good quality life, but cannot be compromised on the capabilities that you have. And you need to adapt artificial intelligence as your assistant to make you more productive. So it is not going to be danger to us.
So true. So very simple. The message here is, learning to learn. That is the message. Continuous upgradation of knowledge, either through physical interactions, business school interactions, networking and learning forums. But the idea is there is an art of learning to learn new things, and that all entrepreneurs will have to do that. That is, do we have a time for one more question? Because I see Shilpa Vikram there raising her hand for a long time.
Sure, let's take
her question. Shilpa, please go ahead and ask your question, please. Shilpa, go ahead, ask your question. You are unmuted. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah. No, I think she's out from there. Okay, till she comes in, Rajesh, one question probably, and you will also see in Q&A, because people know you are from the real estate sector. There are a lot of your friends and our 41ers and roundtablers and V School students also who come from that real estate ecosystem, either developers, landowners, or service providers, architects. And everybody is tensed, they feel things are going to be. We really want you to share some insights on the future of real estate industry post COVID.
So roti, kapda, makan, technology are going to be the 4 points which is going to be a part of everybody's life. The game is going to change. India is not going to be a vertical country. India is going to be a horizontal country. The government wants to decongest the cities. And that's the reason government is investing lakhs of crores in the infrastructure. Nitin Gadkari, the Honorable Minister for Infrastructure of India, he's investing 15 lakh crores over the span of the next 2 years. It is 7.5 lakh crores per annum. Mind you, we all get confused with this lakh crores and 10 lakh crores and all that. The gross revenue of the Indian government is between 12 lakh crores to 15 lakh crores per annum. In comparison to that, the infrastructure investment is going to be 7.5 lakh crores. So this money is going to come into the people and it is going to connect the whole country and make it like a small one city. So there is going to be decentralization of local buildings. There is going to be development which is going to happen. There is going to be not only the development of smart cities, but also smart villages. There is going to be reverse migration. I've started loving to say this statement. Forget about migrants coming to the city to work. Now there is going to be reverse migration of all these entrepreneurs that I see here. The entrepreneurs will have to leave the city and go to the villages because the opportunities are going to be there in the villages, and the infrastructure development which is happening will make you to go to the 2-tier and the 3-tier cities, and there you have to boost it up and develop it up. And the government also is going to give you incentives for that. If you see, the only comfort that people got in this last 70 days of lockdown is the quality of the house that they had. The size of the house and the comfort of the house was directly proportionate to the happiness that they got. So people will now like to have houses of their own rather than staying in vertical buildings. They will be in horizontal buildings. That's why we got into villa development. We were visionary to get into this 5 years back, and fortunately for us today, there are so many inquiries coming up for more number of villas. So for your information, I'm launching 20 new real estate projects in 2020, and now we are going to be launching it faster than what we decided for. So in the next 10 days, we are launching one more project, and every 1 month, 1.5 months, we are launching 2 to 3 new projects. That is the kind of demand. And what we are doing is we are developing the outskirts of cities, which will not only give you a good house where you own the land and the terrace, but it will also give you a location which will appreciate minimum 5 to 30 times in the next 5 to 20 years. So what happened on the Bombay-Pune Express Highway, what happened on the Mumbai-Gujarat Express Highway, the same kind of growth will happen on the Mumbai-Nasik, Mumbai-Nagpur Express Highway, on which we are developing plenty of projects. So real estate is a very interesting industry. It is going to get boost from the government also. So all the people who are associated with the real estate industry will have to collect together and start grabbing this opportunity. But the model is going to change. The number is going to change. The size is going to change. The profit percentage is going to change. Real estate is going to become like a factory industry. You cannot have fancy percentages. Your profits is going to be anywhere between 7.5% to 10%. Normal profit business is business. Abnormal profit in business is cheating. You cannot cheat the customer at all. You need to become realistic. You need to bring down the prices. Government is also going to correct their charges. And all this is going to make the customer happy. And then real estate will become affordable to all. And it is mandatory to have an ownership house. Government has got the plans to build 5 crore houses over various schemes across 2025, up to 2025. I think that will happen. And entrepreneurs like me and you are going to get together and make this vision happen. So real estate is a very interesting investment. The only investment where you can earn profitably and positively over a period of time is real estate. Don't miss out the opportunities to always keep investing in real estate with bank loans. That is what will take care of your future financial and capital gains.
So true. And as the real estate industry grows, Rajesh, the hospitality industry and the entire ecosystem which supports this new townships and all are going to grow, whether it is education, hospitality, logistics, and the services. So I think, yes, that is the message. So Rajesh, thank you very much for this very, very crisp and interactive session. On behalf of the Wellinger Institute of Management, Yangpo Executive Education and 41ers Club of India, a really warm thank you to you. and continue to inspire us like this. And I'm sure the young entrepreneurs watching us across the world have really benefited from your value. Yeah, and you've really given me
Thank
great
you so
value.
much.
It was like a full day program condensed into a small capsule. And again, the presentation also was superb on the honeybee and the honey, how honey is made. I think it gives a lot of thought to people to really think. And more so, I was very fascinated with GUT matrix, something to think about. Yeah. So best of luck
Thank you
to
so
you too,
much.
Rajesh, and thank you very much for this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samir Karkhanis and Wellinger and V School and all the organization organizers involved and all the students who are on board. I wish you all the best. Have a God bless future. We cannot live and sustain and grow without collaborating with each other and working together as one ecosystem. Let us try to be good consumers and good customers in the economy so that the economy can come back to track and be successful in whatever you do. Whichever way I can support you, you can reach me through Samir. You can be connected with us on the social media and have a God bless future. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. And friends, those who are interested in digital AI, machine learning, we have a great speaker and a thought leader, Mr. Milind Shah. He's a senior partner with Densu Consult, and he is going to guide us on the future of AI, ML jobs, how things are evolving on Friday evening, 5 p.m. So those who are interested, do join in for that. Yeah. Thank you very much for this great event. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.